can't go on social media right now and not hear the noise. The Denver Broncos are frauds. The Denver Broncos are the worst 10-2 team I've ever seen. The Denver Broncos are going to go one and done in the playoffs. I've heard it all. This Broncos team has flaws, just like every single team in the NFL. But this team is also what their record shows. They're a 10-2 team. They're a good football team. However, in all 10 of these wins, at some point the Denver Broncos have trailed. In the Bengals and Cowboys game, the opponent scored a field goal early and then Denver boat raced them the rest of the way. So that technically counts as trailing in the game. But in other games, Denver needs to thank their lucky stars that they came away with the victory. The Giants game where they had to come back 33 points in the fourth quarter. The Jets game. To an extent, the Eagles game. You've got the Raiders game where it was 10-7. This most recent game against the Commanders. The Broncos have had some really ugly football games this year. There's no doubt about it. But they've won these games. They've found a way to overcome the adversity. That's the sign of an experienced football team. That's the sign of a good football team. And people are saying, oh, this isn't going to bode well for the Broncos once we get to the playoffs. When they face a more tough opponent, they're not going to be able to win a game like this. I'd argue it's the other way around. You look at the Broncos game against the Houston Texans. That was a playoff caliber opponent, and they won that game. The Texans have one of the best defenses in the NFL outside of the Denver Broncos. Hell, they might be better than Denver in certain areas, and Denver was still able to find a way to beat them. That is the type of game that the Denver Broncos are going to have to win in the playoffs. It's going to be cold. That time of year in Denver is when we see our coldest weather. It's when we see temperatures well below freezing. It's when we see the wind start to blow. You're going to have to find a way to win these low-scoring games. And once Denver gets J.K. Dobbins back for the playoffs, they're going to have even more help with those type of games because running the football is the best formula for winning these type of games. But it's not just the Denver Broncos who have won these type of games before and have gone on to have playoff success. I want to go ahead and bring in this tweet here from Jordan Lopez. The last 3 Super Bowl winners and some of the wins they had that season. The Eagles in 2024. They lost to the Atlanta Falcons in Week 2, 22-21. Saquon Barkley had a really bad dropped pass in that one. They barely beat the Saints in New Orleans 15-12, barely beat the Browns, barely beat the Panthers, barely beat the Giants. Chiefs in 2023 scraped by against the Jags, the Jets by just 3 points. They lost to the Raiders, and they barely squeaked by against the Chargers. Then the Chiefs in 2022. They had to get an overtime win against the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Super Bowl winners know how to win these ugly games. I'd argue that teams who boat race their opponent every single week in the regular season, they tend to do a lot worse in the playoffs. The Detroit Lions of last season are a perfect example of this. They won 15 games last year, and they didn't have to win a lot of close games. They were pretty comfortably leading in almost all of these games. Once they got to the divisional round of the playoffs after having a first-round bye, they found themselves down early in that game against the Commanders, and they weren't able to find a way to bounce back. They lost that game, and they went one and done in the playoffs. And in my opinion, not only because of their injuries, but also they just did not have the experience to overcome their self-inflicted wounds early in games. Jared Goff had some early turnovers, and they just ended up spiraling out of control after that point. The Broncos have won several games where they've had a lot of self-inflicted wounds. They've found ways to overcome it. That is the formula for winning in the playoffs. So when I hear people say that the Broncos are frauds and that they're going to go one and done in the playoffs, of course that concern is always going to be in the back of your mind, but I think this really does bode well for them entering the playoffs. They're a seasoned playoff team as well. The Broncos went to the playoffs last year, and they know what it feels like to lose a football game in the playoffs. That alone is incentive to play your heart out in these type of games and give that extra little bit of effort, because you know what it feels like at the end of the year to go home empty-handed and fall short of your ultimate goal. Sure, last season the Broncos were just happy to be there. Us fans, we were just happy to be there. But the players, when they got into that playoff game last year, felt like they had a legitimate chance to win it, and they ended up coming up short. The Broncos having that experience is going to bode really well for them, as well as the fact that they have this experience in these ugly games. Winning ugly and winning pretty sometimes are very different. When you know how to win ugly, you can overcome a lot of adversity. When you just know how to win pretty and you don't know how to win ugly, it can come back and bite you in the ass when you face that adversity later on in the season. This is a battle-tested Broncos team. And most importantly, Bo Nix plays his best football when his back is against the wall. When people are doubting him, when everyone's down on him, that's whenever Bo Nix plays his best. That's when he turns on that Bo that we saw against the Raiders last year with the scary eyes. I don't fear nothing. That's when we get that version of Bo. So that gives me a lot more confidence heading into the playoffs, especially if we've got to play a team like the Buffalo Bills or somebody like that. I don't think Denver's going to get much of a fair chance in that game. That is exactly what we want. We want our backs against the wall, because that's when Denver rises out of the ashes and they play their best football. So I'm not concerned about this. The Denver Broncos winning these ugly games is going to benefit them more than it is going to be a detriment to them in the playoffs. But I want to know your thoughts on this, Broncos country. Do you think that the Broncos experience winning these ugly games is going to help them or hurt them come playoff time? Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts, as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. Additionally, if you want to go above and beyond in supporting the channel, please consider becoming a channel member today. It's not mandatory, but if you want some extra perks and incentives in exchange for helping me out, helping the channel grow, and helping improve the production quality of this content, the link is in the description below. Alright guys, and until next time, I'm your host Gage Madrid, saying peace out.